I go to Mass every Sunday and pray multiple times every single day and thank the good Lord no matter what I'm going through. I say thank you for my struggles. And oh, by the way, how about that? Whatever I'm looking for.
Welcome, everybody, to the Build to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. And we believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and life starts every single day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. My name is Brett Swartz, and every episode we're joined by some of the best real estate, entrepreneurial, millionaires, and billionaires. They all share their experience with us, their wisdom, their expertise, so we can all scale our lives, scale our businesses, and again, give more all of it away. I am excited about our next guest. This is kind of a unique guest. We're going to be talking about delivering or creating world-class events. Our next guest is out of the state of California, my home state, and she's going to talk to us all about this this world that I haven't really been introduced to. And this is why I'm excited, because I don't have too many unique guests. I'm just going to get right into it and let her share her story, because it is a creative and really cool background. Please welcome to the show with me, Marley Majcher. Marley, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
And for our listeners to get to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. So I have a celebrity-based catering and event planning company in LA called The Party Goddess, and we handle every aspect of an event from A to Z, or I like to say we kind of handle A, P, Q, and R. So you can come to us and say, here's the date, here's the budget, handle it, or you can come to us and say, hey, I have a venue, I have a photographer, I have invitations, handle everything else. So we sort of do whatever. And then at the end of the day, since I've been an entrepreneur literally my whole life, I wrote a business book to solve my own problems, because there were many. And I mean, there continue to be, but I've solved a lot of them.
That's awesome. That's really great. And so before you became the party planning expert that you are and the events extraordinaire that you are, I'm curious, who was Marley growing up? Was she the life of the party? Give us your strengths, your superpowers that you kind of just were naturally given, and how do you use those to help and bless people today?
Sure. So Marley growing up was noisy, not necessarily the life of the party, but the noisiest one in the corner for sure. I started my first business when I was 4 years old, selling shrinky-dinks door to door, which are, if you're on one end of the age spectrum, you know, those are the plastic sheets you would draw on and put in the toaster oven. And I would poke a little hole in them and put a string around them, and then I would walk out the front door and sell them to the neighbors. And what totally sums me up growing up is I remember literally being 4 years old and charging 15 cents for these, which was ridiculous even in those days, and just feeling the coins in my little paws. That's the only way I can describe it. And thinking this was the greatest feeling ever, and just always having some kind of business, like constantly, whether it was car washes, or I wrote my quote first book when I was 13 years old on the art of creative gift wrapping, and convinced the bookstore to take it, and on and on. So I was very focused, but always very kind of focused on entertaining, I think, because my mom was kind of like a suburban Martha Stewart without the business component. So I really learned from that.
That's really cool. So creative, entrepreneurial.
Yep.
You said a little bit noisy, but noisy helped to get this, helped to get the spirit of business going. I love it. Cool. So let's dive into the topic at hand, which is creating extraordinary or amazing events. What's the number one secret to doing that, Marley?
The key thing is to figure out what is your goal, like what's your goal and who's your audience, but then how are you going to top anything that they have ever seen or been to? So if that is your goal and you keep that in the forefront of your mind, you're going to have a better event than 99.9% of the population. And the reason is it might not end up being the best event that they've ever been to, but if you constantly look at every aspect of an event, right? Let's say an event is 3 to 4 hours, depending if it's a cocktail party or dinner party or whatever. And if you keep looking at it as there are these components, like they get there, They're going to eat. They're going to be served a drink. They're going to have entertainment. All these little kind of chunks. And if you can keep saying, how can I outdo whatever has been done? Your mindset will be in the right place, and people will walk away saying, oh my gosh, that was the greatest thing, the greatest party I've ever been to. And what I want to underscore is that does not mean the most expensive, flamboyant party I was ever at. It doesn't sometimes, but it doesn't always translate that way.
Okay, so first of all, it's a mindset stating, A, what's the goal, right?
Yep.
Clear goal.
100%.
2, who is the audience, right? Understanding that.
Right.
3, and how can we top their experience from the past of similar events to be that this is the best they've ever been to. And the mindset is constantly asking yourself that before the event, during the event.
Correct.
And breaking it down like these small, like these are like the time frames of these moments. Is that a fair summary?
Fair summary. And the key with all that to keep in mind, just keep saying, is you've got to go for the emotion. What is going to hit them emotionally? And if you think of a really good movie, right, like a thriller or an action movie, it kind of starts out and and you kind of climb, right? And then you get to, oh, here's the point. And then it's like, oh, are they going to live? Or are they going to die? If you think of creating an event that way, even a small one, you're going to tap into people's emotions, and you're automatically going to take them on that ride. So think of it like a thriller or like a roller coaster ride. And the more you can get them to be like, wait, what? Like, what? That was crazy. Or, I mean, it goes from the simple things like, you know, when somebody asks you to the prom and they show up on your front door with the invitation and in person, everybody goes like, oh my gosh, that's so great, right? Because it's something slightly different. So it can start with the invitations, and it can go right to what happens when you ring the doorbell at the party.
Okay, I like this. We're getting practical here.
Yep.
And the key is to try and create an environment where they're in the story, they're in the thriller, they're in the, you know, it's something where their emotions are going to be moved.
Absolutely.
And it starts from the very, very beginning of the invitation, which makes sense. Like, I mean, if you go to a great wedding, it's like a great invitation, and it's all the excitement and the momentum. Talk about the power of momentum within an event. And not just that, but then talk about like, oh, these are the things that just kill the momentum, you know, crush the event.
I'll tell you exactly. Okay. So the momentum of the event is important. So I'm going to exaggerate things a little bit for you here, because then it'll make complete sense. So if you you go to an event, right? And at first, you know, even if it's a house you're familiar with or people, you still don't know who else is going to be there. You don't know how they're going to be dressed. How are you dressed? How, you know, are you going to be the first one there? Are you going to be the last one there? Is the music going to be blaring? All those kind of things, right? So you have all these things going on in your mind. So if you walk in the front door and all of a sudden you hear the Rolling Stones playing live, you're going to be like, wait, what? I mean, that's going to be very cool, but it's very jarring. You're not prepared for it. And there's been a huge missed opportunity. So you think of it as you want to go in and kind of ease things, ratchet, like boil the frog, basically. So it starts with who's greeting you at the door, or who's greeting you there. It can't just be like, oh, the front door is open, right? That happens a lot of times. Then it's like you stand there and you're like, okay, where do I go? Do I go to the kitchen? What am I supposed to do? So it's got to be somebody like setting the stage, like, hi, acknowledging that you're in the right place, right? Here, yep, you're here. We're so happy to have you. And then kind of guiding you through. Here's, you know, would you like a drink? Would you like this? So sort of playing tour guide through the whole thing. So now you're getting comfortable, right? You're getting comfortable. You're kind of looking around. And then maybe a little bit into it, something with the food, the past appetizer is really interesting. Or maybe it's got dry ice, or it's, I don't know, it's on fire. It's served in a totally different way. Now you're like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. And then, you know, you're at the rest of the party and something is interesting about the flower arrangements. I don't know. Or it's a holiday party and the Christmas trees are upside down. I mean, something just where you're like, oh, okay. Now you're ratcheting people up, right? And then people are going to think this is really cool. You go to the bar, there's a signature cocktail. I don't know. Maybe the bartender does something really interesting that kind of catches your attention. And do you see where I'm going? You're building and you're going, this is not like any other party I've been to. Somebody has really thought about all those steps, just like a heat map on a website, right? Somebody has been very purposeful about where these things are placed, like timing and visually, etc. And then let's say you have, like we did this one time with an event where we had this amazing band, and everybody thought it was a very cool band from the 80s that people knew. They thought wow, what a great surprise, right? But then that band didn't play for that long. And after that was the coolest band that this client had brought out of retirement. The client didn't even know. The husband had set it up. She bursts into tears. Everybody's looking around going, wait, what just happened? Like, we thought that was the band. Like, this is a cooler band. She's crying. Is everything okay? She's like dancing now on the stage. What I'm trying to say is you're wrapping them up into this story. Now you've got people who don't even care about dancing are sitting there saying, wait, who is this? What? And then all of a sudden the whispers start, oh, she always wanted that band for the last 15 years, but it was too expensive. They couldn't get them. Now they got them. Now you're part of this journey, right? Now you're like, isn't that so sweet? How, blah, 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 blah. You see where I'm heading. But the other key thing is, let's say you have the fabulous band, then you can't just be like, turn the lights on. Okay. Music's off. Everybody's out. Because then you've just been dropped out of a plane with no parachute. So you got to guide them back down, right? A plane doesn't just all of a sudden say, okay, we're about to land, bonk. I mean, unfortunately these days sometimes. But instead you say, okay, and you come in for ideally a smooth landing and set them off to the rest of their lives. But they are going to say, that was so cool. They don't even know why it was so cool. It just was so cool and they will never forget it. And that's the ultimate framework for an amazing event.
Oh my goodness. The Party Goddess, by the way, everybody, thepartygoddess.com is Marley Majcher. I'm going to spell this name for you because it's actually like a party, even just, spell it, looking at the name, how you spell this last name. It does start with an M, but it's AJCHER, but you can just go to thepartygoddess.com. Okay, I'm going to unpack some of this because I feel like that was just gold there. And obviously you're the expert in this. Make sure I caught it all as best I could. Okay. All right. So you want to create delight and surprise in a thoughtful, meaningful way. And I think of it like kind of like a fireworks show in one sense, but not too quickly to the finale.
Correct.
I think about it like a good movie, obviously, right?
Yep.
And not out of order.
Right.
And then also, I think you said it well. It's like, you can't just walk in and it's just a grand finale. Like, you got to get people a chance to warm up. So it's like boiling the frog makes sense. You're taking them up, you're taking them on a journey, small steps, and you're getting them comfortable. You're getting them in a space to, I guess, experience and feel the emotions, right? People's head spaces, and we're so distracted these days. It takes a little bit of time to get in the moment. Okay, so that's good. And then, but even more, not just that, but have something where there's something not only delightful and surprising, but even like everyone is a part of that delight and surprise. Correct. It's not just the one person, but everyone can feel like they're a part of it. And then also, you can't forget to drop people out of the plane. You're right. Yeah. You can't just turn the lights on and go home. You're not allowed. You go where you want, but you can't go here, right? And you just like wait. So you got to figure out how to land a plane. So let's talk about that for a second. Like, how do you properly land the plane? Well, like, what does that look like in practicality?
Okay, so it's all about anticipation. All of this is about anticipation and planning. None of it is rocket science, right? But I'm sure we've all been to some kind of event, corporate, social, a wedding, whatever, where it wasn't very well thought out. So it's all of a sudden, the band starts playing that song Last Dance, and you hear Last Dance, and that's when everyone's on the dance floor. They know this has been so fun, so great. We're celebrating all of a sudden. And then it's like, bam, and literally the lights go up. And it might as well be like that ALS challenge where you just got water just thrown on your head because you have all this, like, the love is in the air and somebody just killed it. So what do? Well, okay, you can still end the party, right? But maybe instead of, if it's a hard 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock cutoff for music, okay, well, maybe have the music actually end at 5 minutes to 11, the key song, right? So that you can then have some so maybe it's not dancing music, but it's a little bit slower music, but it's going to take somebody, you don't want somebody to have a heart attack and then be like, okay, now, like you can't have these huge jumps. So you maybe have the music end 5 minutes early, as they say, and then you kind of bring them down, you glide them down. And there, by the way, there is no reason on the planet that the lights need to go from moody and fabulous and clubby to, hi, we have the halogen, luminescent, we can land a plane now. Just have everybody gets the message. Once the music is finished and once the bar is cut, everybody knows it's time. But you don't have to now shove them out the door and say, we're going to go into overtime. Right? Because that's what that says. It's like, we're done. Thank you. It's cleanup time. And that is what will kill the buzz more than anything, is when all of a sudden you see waiters, everybody start, and you're going, whoa, because you're in this fog, this like amazing, you've been lulled into this fabulosity. And now it's, we've all heard it at restaurants, the glass is clinking, it's like, the silverware, and you're just going, okay, can't get you out fast enough. Alrighty, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's like a bad college party go wrong, or
exactly.
like a bad prom going wrong, or a good prom gone wrong at the end, and
right, or like the cops are here, like lights on, everybody out,
everybody scatter.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm hearing like number one step is like, make sure you're thoughtful in the invitation. Obviously, you're thoughtful in the timing.
Right.
You have a greeter at the door who's greeting, and I imagine you have multiple greeters, because you get people coming in at different times, and then you have people to greet, to hand off to the next layer to get the people to help them get the drink, or so whatnot, or to get connected to conversation. That makes sense to me, right? Talk about just some strategy there with the folks that you're going to have help run the event.
Well, the strategy, first of all, is everybody has to be hyper focused as to what is the goal. And that might seem like, oh, we've already talked about the goal. No, what is the goal? The goal of an event, I don't care if it's a wedding, a funeral, anything, is first of all to assure the person, the guest or guest, that they are in the right place. Yes, you've found the right place, the right room, the right whatever it is. So first of all, a smile helps. But just you start with a smile, and basically that's like the reassurance that yes, you're here, and that I'm now going to guide you through this process. Think of it like boarding a plane, right? You don't board a plane and you go up the thing down the jetway and there's nobody there. I mean, you're like, okay, is this plane really going to Kansas? I don't know. Somebody's there saying, welcome aboard. Do you need help with your seat? So the people working the event are kind of attuned to, some people are going to be the sister of the hostess, and they're going to know exactly where they're going. So you read that body language, but people need to be attuned to reading the body language and what level of comfort. Some people are going to be like, oh, hi, great, and off they go. Then let them go off if that's the direction they want to go. But other people who are like, maybe they're older, especially these days, if somebody's older, or let's say somebody is younger and broke their leg, or they need help up the stairs, automatically be like, anticipate. People are going to want to put their purses down. They're going to want to put their coats down. If it's, depending on the time of year, where should they put them? Where will they be? Who will take them? Do they have a gift? Like it's kind of like greet and then unencumber is kind of number 2. And then guide them to the next step, because those are the natural things. And then even for people who are going to have a drink, not necessarily, some people are going to want the alcohol so they can get through the event. Other people are it's just kind of like, let me get a drink and kind of get settled, and then I can get a lay of the land. But as long as everybody's attuned to sort of some of those nonverbal cues, things go a lot better.
Oh, this is so good. Okay. All right. Got it. So greet and unencumber, right?
Yeah.
Have hospitality and anticipation.
Yeah.
Just be thoughtful and kind, right?
Just smile.
General.
When in doubt, smile. If you just say to your 16-year-old, go get the door because I'm not out of the shower yet, right? At the very least, if they smile and are trying to be helpful, the whole rest of the night goes a lot better.
Yeah, you are welcome here. You're in the right place. Right. This is, because you just can't assume people, no, they haven't been there before, likely, especially if it's a brand new, but okay, so that's going good. Yeah. That's going great. And then, so that's the first 10, 20% of the event. Yeah. Then the middle piece, any thoughtful, considerations there? What do you think?
Of course. So think about, what do you want them to do? Okay. So this goes back to, they're comfortable. They're there. They know they're in the right place. That visually it looks good. Now what? do you need to get them? Is it a Super Bowl party? Like, do you need to get some food in them? Because, that's a long duration of an event, and usually there's a lot of alcohol. So is it hot? I mean, people really underestimate a lot of times how the weather affects things. That if it is really, really hot, and your first plan was to, pass XYZ vodka shot or something, you go, okay, wait a second. We've got to get them a little bit hydrated first, or get some food. And then where are they going to do that? Do you want them to, is everybody going to be sitting? Is there a seat for everybody? There doesn't need to be, by the way, but kind of what are the zones of the party? Like, just because there is a living room with couches, but it's all white, can you be in there? That kind of thing. So sort of anticipate what are the next steps you want them to do, to eat, drink, so that you are pacing the event for the guests without them knowing it, right? You're just, think of it kind of this invisible string. You're just sort of guiding them along, because the host or hostess knows what time this event needs to be finished, what time, so you got to keep things moving. So are they going to have, is it just heavy hors d'oeuvres? Or what time do you need to get them seated for a plated dinner? So it's anticipating what are the next steps, and then who's going to facilitate that? Are waiters going to go around? Is somebody going to ring a bell? Are the stations going to open? And just keep continuing to take them along so that you're future pacing the event.
Okay, so this is great. Makes sense. So the where and the how, what are they going to do? Steps for them, right? Okay, so let's get, and maybe it's the same, but what's the difference between like the corporate business, like throwing it for the client event versus like personal, family, different things. Like, let's focus on the corporate client event, that kind of thing, like, and like the business and entrepreneur kind of thing. Like, what would you say is some key things to keep in mind?
Okay, so interestingly enough, they can be very different, but the roadmap is often almost exactly the same, which is, what do you want them to do? What's the goal? So I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, right? I throw corporate events for other people. I throw events for myself. Sometimes the event is you're wooing investors, right? So you're not going to come to them and be like, hi, and you're going to want to have them, know, like, and trust you, let's say, right? And meet the other people in the room, maybe people who've known you for your whole life, that like whatever, again, is the goal. Is the goal to introduce somebody to you and your product so that you can get them to invest? Or is it a thank you for your team who's just done an amazing job? That's going to have a very different vibe. So that's why I keep focusing on what's the goal and who's going to be at the event, right? You can have an event can be much more casual and much more relaxed if it's a corporate event for your entire team and their plus ones, right? Whereas if it's forward facing for people that you don't know and are trying to impress, things have to be much more buttoned up. But it's the same thing. You still want those people to walk in, to know they're in the right place, welcome, et cetera, because that's key for anything. I mean, that's just, human beings.
That's great. That makes sense. Okay. So, again, what's the goal?
Yeah.
Wooing investors, obviously no like and trust. That makes sense. Having that at the forefront. This is what we're here for, or thank you event. Right. And,
can I jump in one quick thing that I forgot to say, which is crucial for a corporate event, is what do you want them to do next? So just think about it like if you get to a hard squeeze page on a website, or you get to, what's the next step? Do you want them to leave the event, right, and donate to a charity? Was it a fundraiser? So could you send them home with a cookie with the, QR code on the wrapper? Do you want them to, sign up for a free trial? Do you want them to connect with you on LinkedIn so you can follow? I don't know, whatever it would be. But always keep in mind, what's the next step? Because that is a difference between corporate and social, is that with corporate, even if it's just a thank you for employees, there is some kind of ROI that is focused around that event. What do you want to measure? Like, what's the KPI? What do you want to measure, and what's the outcome? X number of people that opted in to try for the free trial, etc. So begin with the end in mind with that.
Okay, excellent. So what is the next step? I've even heard recently, I gave a speech at an event, and they mentioned making the the next step, not the very last thing, because it could also kind of like about landing the plane.
Yeah.
It could feel like, oh, it felt, a little too salesy. So they say actually make it, 3/4 of the way. Perfect. And then, have like a great emotional, good story, feel good story. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So any thoughts on action to land the plane within the corporate business event?
Sure. Well, I would, when you say that, it makes me think of seeding, right? In marketing. So to me, perfect point. You don't want to just drop the plane out of the sky. But I would, again, at the very beginning, begin with the end in mind. So people are going to come to this event and you're going to have this architecture of, okay, they're going to come to the event. We're not going to right away, but here's the QR code. Maybe you would if it's an auction and, you need to give them a paddle or they've got to check in or something like that. But again, begin with the end in mind where, you're greeting them and they're in the right place. But maybe as people wander around the event, right, before they, meet somebody or before they know somebody, maybe, I don't know, in the flower arrangement, there's a QR code or something about finding out more. You've got to also keep in mind that a lot of people go to events and don't know anybody, or they go to events, especially with corporate stuff, and they're not bringing someone, right? So I always think a great trick is to have something for them to sort of focus on so they don't feel, nobody really is paying attention, but we all feel this way kind of when we're just standing there by ourselves. So there's something for them to focus on. So I like to describe it as like, think of it as if you're in a museum, right? Nobody complains or nobody thinks you're lame if you're in a museum reading a plaque and looking at the painting. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be sort of introspective. So think of an event that way. And that is where you can start your seeding, right? Where in about 30 minutes or 45 minutes, you are going to give them the QR code. You are going to start talking to them about this program. Well, maybe you... this free trial. So maybe in the beginning, you start having them do some components of that. Again, you're not asking them to give you your name and email or anything, but you're warming them up so it isn't this shock to the system.
Okay, let's get this practical, because I'm actually planning on having an event in Incline Village, this beautiful area with these luxury realtors, and we're doing the planning right now. We got the location. First, the location, they say we give us an hour. I'm like, there's no way we're going to do an event in an hour. We need at least 2 hours. So I think that's something to talk about here in a second. Yeah. But on top of that, I'm thinking through it and warming them up to the talk, right? And so maybe I have some handouts or some deal story, like a one-page deal story of how what we provided changed someone's life, or some questions to ask.
Better yet, got another one. What about when everybody is so forgetful and we've got let's say maybe you sent an e-bite, or maybe you get their you have their cell phone, so you're sending an SMS. What about sending them a link to preview before the event? What about just a success story that doesn't feel too salesy? It just feels like we're so excited for you to come to the event and just a little bit more about us or whatever. And a very short, or better yet, what about a little video that says super short? We're so excited, and just in case you want to check us out ahead of time, and then have them go to a hard squeeze page or somewhere where you can really track it. And then now you're off to the races with marketing events, because now you can start, you've got some KPI. You can say, hey, X number of people clicked on the SMS link, or X number of people, because remember, there are some people, they're going to be flying in, they're bored, they're on the plane. They're like, what is this about? What did my secretary sign me up for? Or my assistant, whatever. So now you've got some points, right, to try to track and some numbers to beat. But all those points along the way, you're building the know, like, and trust. And guess what? The first thing you mentioned was they wanted an hour. You're going to have 2 hours. So you've already said you've got a time thing. So if you wait until they're in that event, and then remember, people aren't going to be at the event on time. So that's going to be people natural. And they don't know they've got a hard out after an hour or two. So the more you can just warm them up with all these little teases to get them into your world. So it's kind of like by the time the turkey shows up at the door, it's ready to be cooked.
Oh, that's really good. I love that. Yeah, I love that idea of I have a warm-up sequence even to the event, something short. You want to be able to preview. And also it gives anticipation and more likely for them to show up to the event in case something does happen where their day's not going so great, but they're like, but gosh, I saw that video and that I'm going to get there. I'm going to figure out a way to get there,
And then the other component is let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's use gamification, right? Maybe you want them to hashtag somebody. I mean, hashtags are starting to go with the wind, but tag somebody else who's going to be at the event. Check on, here's the list of people who are going to be here if that's appropriate, so that maybe it's peer pressure. Reach out to, any of these people, reach out to them and tell them you're excited, or reach out and meet them 45 minutes before for a drink. Again, that's another, because you're going to have a short time frame, right? So the more of these warm-ups and intros that can get out of the way, not on your, when the clock is ticking for you. But again, just think of events. People think of it like an event is so different than any other marketing. It isn't. There's a warm-up, right? If you sign up for a webinar that's in a month, you don't sign up in a month and then you go, oh, okay, it's the day of, and I better check I think it's today, right? You're getting a series of emails. You're getting a series of texts, or do this, or here's a handout, or try this, that kind of thing. So events are no different.
Oh, this is so good. Again, we're speaking with Marley Majcher, and you can find more about her and everything she's doing by going to thepartygoddess.com, and she offers a high-end full-service catering event planning company that helps crazy busy people, A-list celebrities, to regular Joes and Jills like us, executive rock star, fabulous events from concept to completion, all of the above. Okay, this is so cool. I'm having fun already talking about it. Good. And I mean, the whole time, but I mean, I guess it's great. You're doing a great job, Marley. What haven't I asked you that I should make sure I've asked you? And you're like, you got to make sure to share this before we go to the lightning round.
Yeah. So I would say, what's the future of events? Because let's face it, events can be expensive. Well, no matter what, they're expensive. They're labor intensive. And then, how are we going to continue to wow people who have been there and seen everything? And I think part of the important part about my bio is that it's not to say, oh, I'm not an A-lister, I can't hire her. No, the point is that with the type of clients we have, like billionaires or very high profile people, they have traveled the world and they have been there and they have seen all of that. So the idea is for me to keep one step ahead of them, right? One step ahead. Well, but guess what? You haven't seen this. And these days, there's some ways to do that. I think that the nice part about technology coming into events is that it can bring some costs down. So one of the things that I think will wow people still for years to come are going to be holograms, right? Where you have the person beamed up from wherever, some high profile person, that they're not at the event, but they can still pop in with a recorded message or even a live message, or some people feel it's controversial to bring the artist back from the dead or whatever to sing a concert. But any of those things that are going to add to the futuristic aspect, or as far as events where it goes the exact opposite, where it goes back to the old days of very high service ratios to guests, where it's, we're so used to these days to kind of costs are being cut, and so it's kind of one extreme or the other. So use technology. You can use AI. I mean, I use AI for so many things, especially when I get stuck. And I think a great prompt for AI is to give it a full paragraph of, we're doing a corporate event for 200 people or whatever it is. Normally we do it at this blah, blah, blah. Now they want us to have a tour. I mean, really tell the story almost like you're telling somebody you want to hire, telling a therapist, and then they want to cut, and then they want to do this. What are some creative ways that nobody's seen before, and really make it a juicy paragraph and just see what AI spits back to you. Now, sometimes they're going to say, you should have a clown and purple helium balloons. And you're going to be like, okay, hi, you missed the point that it was a corporate event, whatever. But every time, I don't think it's ever missed. Every time there'll be some kernel in there that I'll say, wow, that's an idea. So as far as the future of events and as far as like the big takeaway, I would say when all else fails, freaking ask ChatGPT.
So I love that. That's a great idea. ChatGPT for the rescue on this one. Mm-hmm. One little bonus point before you lighten around, because you got me thinking about the future. Mm-hmm. Online events versus in-person events, right? And so Are you also helping people with online events?
Absolutely.
And and what quickly 3 tips to make sure you have an amazing online event?
Sure. Online events face unique challenges because you've got to constantly have those in the back of your mind. They are people are so busy. It's much easier to bail on an online event, right? Because you can RSVP. They think, oh, whatever, somebody's got a better deal. You're going to have a better event. So you constantly have to be thinking about how to get them engaged, how to get them to want to be there. I mean, it's almost like, come and you'll win X. I mean, it really has to be that crazy. And the reminders have to be constant and in as many mediums as possible, the cell phone, the email, etc. And you have to keep them, online events, typically shorter, in smaller chunks. I would absolutely go in knowing that you're going to need to boil down some of those key components of the event, put them on social media, put them on YouTube, put them on Instagram Shorts, kind of as the event is going. Let's say it's a full day event. That way, anybody it's going to be like, oh, fricker, that's right, that was today, right? Hit them wherever they are to remind them. But with online events, think of it like you're entertaining 3-year-olds. You have got to be having the jugglers and everything going constantly, because somebody could get a phone call. They could be on their email. They're not paying attention. Oh, they didn't want to go to the event anyway. Their boss made them sign up. This is too long. I'm too hot in my conference room. I'm watching this in my car, whatever. So you've really got to keep but wait, there's more.
That's great. Beautiful. All right. Well, we're way out of time. So we're going straight to the lightning round. Yep. That was amazing, Marley. Thank you. Yep. So knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one gold nugget make sure you tell yourself to do?
I would tell myself right out the gate, be like, that's great that you have a fabulous idea, but come up with your pricing structure and road test it, acid test it, build it out, and not just like a business plan, but these are my cost of goods sold, but how much time am I going to spend creating the product, servicing the client? Yeah, I can have fabulous margins for an event. If I forget to take into account that I've got to go to 6 networking events for an hour each and drive and close and calls, there went the profit right out the window. So it's time.
Okay. Excellent. Great wisdom there. Number 2 question. Number 1 book you've recommended the most in the past year?
E-Myth Revisited, other than my own, of course.
Okay. Question number 3, number 1 leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Winston Churchill, never give up on something you can't go a day without thinking about.
Excellent. Next question. Number 1 way you're using ChatGPT?
To get me out of a funk. And I'm going to use that funk in quotes, meaning it might just be, I'm stuck. I don't have the ideas. It might be, I don't want to do my work right now, but I need to get something done. I kind of want to play with it. I'm curious. Yeah. So it sort of just gives me ideas.
Yeah, I agree. But by the way, I'm using the discussion version, not just transcribing and talking, but then like actually talking back and forth. It's powerful. It's really, really cool. And then the second thing is you put it inside of a folder, you create a project.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the project, you say, I want you to cross-reference everything inside of this project.
Yep.
And you can decide which of your previous conversations or previous chats you want to add to that or subtract. But the point is, it starts to cross-reference and get even better and come up with like the best way to do that. And in fact, I'm going to read this prompt to everybody real fast.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead. You have a thought and then I'll pull up the prompt. Go ahead.
My one thought is just to play on your thing, which is to supersize that is don't forget to go into the settings of ChatGPT and tell it how you like to receive information, because that's one of the things I did. And one of my key things was I said, pretend you are a chef creating a recipe for me who has never cooked before. And the reason I say that is because it every time now comes back. And also I say, and pretend whatever you tell me, I'm going to be overwhelmed by, and I'm going to need like encouragement and step-by-step instructions. And it's amazing how, because sometimes ChatGPT spits out like, oh, and then do this and do this and do this. But if you tell it, hey, listen, you got to go step by step, like flip the switch on the light kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then
I love that. I'm going to add that to mine. And here's what I put in the instructions for the project for my name. I put cross-reference all of the information in all of the chats within the project. That's my name, my project, so that all of the ChatGPT answers are based on the most amount of information possible for extreme accuracy and efficiency. And that's the cross-reference inside of chat. You create a project and then you can add little chats to that. Yep. And I think I like to add that one as well. Like make it so simple, right? On the step-by-step. Okay. Awesome. That's a little bonus there. Last question, then we'll wrap it up, Marley. After all your success helping all the people you help, what's the best way that you stay centered in your values and stay encouraged to charge forward to reach even higher heights?
I go to Mass every Sunday and pray multiple times every single day and thank the good Lord no matter what I'm going through. I say, thank you for my struggles. And oh, by the way, how about that? Whatever I'm looking for.
Marley Majcher, it's been more than a pleasure to have you on the show. I want to thank you for being here. I want to encourage you to keep using your gifts and talents and blessing people to be blessing at events and to be able to make an impact, to land the plane well, and to have hospitality and thoughtfulness and all of the amazing things that you just shared with us. So great, so cool, so unique. I appreciate you. For our listeners, if they want to get in touch with you, we'll remind them one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Sure. They can email us at info@thepartygoddess.com or just DM us at thepartygoddess on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you, Marley. And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast. As well, we're streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. And we are here to help you scale from millions to billions so you can give more, all of it away. And by the way, events is a huge part of it. If you're going to want to deepen the relationships with your clients or investors, your team, you've got to throw and have world-class events because your competition is doing that. And so get with Marley. She can help you. Appreciate everyone listening, watching out there. Please subscribe, share it with someone who they could appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye now.